Welcome to Shaped by Faith with your host, Theresa Rowe. To find out more about Shaped by Faith and Theresa Rowe, please visit shapedbyfaith.com or visit the YouTube channel, Facebook, or Instagram. And now, here is Theresa Rowe.
Welcome to Shaped by Faith, where we shape our bodies and hearts for God's purposes. I have a very special guest today. Her name is Whitney Logan Howard, and she is the granddaughter of Gwen Bennett. And as you can recall, Gwen is the founder of Shepherd's Hand Ministries, a nonprofit Christian-based organization here in Owensboro, Kentucky. So Whitney is in training. She's in training to take the baton from Gwen and to take this ministry, as Gwen puts it, to the next level. And I absolutely love that. So welcome to Shaped by Faith, Whitney.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be on here and to share my experience and my testimony with everyone today. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm excited too. And I'm so glad that the Lord connected us really through a divine connection through your grandmother, but also as we were filming Project Volunteer, actually, about the ministry Shepherd's Hand. So I got to meet you in person and hear your story, and it's an incredible story. So I do want the listeners to hear it. But I think it's exciting because I didn't know up until that day that Gwen was kind of handing over that baton. So it's kind of neat to be there and talk to her about that as well. So I always love to give our listeners some sort of background about our guests. So why don't you give us your background and what your life was like growing up? Okay.
So when I was born, or when my mom was pregnant with me, my mother was diagnosed with Guillain-Barré syndrome. And for people who don't know what that is, it's a rare autoimmune disorder where somebody's own immune system attacks their nerves. And so when my mom was pregnant with me, the doctors tried to talk her into an abortion because they could not treat her Guillain-Barré while being pregnant with me. Mm-hmm. So she obviously refused, because here I stand today. Mm-hmm. But they told her that if she were to deliver me, I would be stillborn or I would be severely mentally handicapped. Neither of those things happened, but thankfully, through her faith, she said, when I actually asked her about this morning, and she said, for whatever reason, she was just not scared at all. She had heard a story that recently before that, somebody with the exact same condition delivered their baby, and their baby was fine. However, the woman herself was on a respirator, but luckily, by the grace of God, Mom and I were both fine. So with that being said, I wanted to start this by saying I truly believe that God has had a calling on my life since the day that I was born, since the day I was conceived. So the enemy has tried to take me out multiple times throughout my life. So I just wanted to start with that. And
but God, I mean, He did have His hands on you. That's an incredible story. Yeah, that's new. I'm so glad that you brought that up. So, okay, so here you are. God's hand is on you, and you've got great things to accomplish, right?
Yes, I do. So, growing up, my parents divorced when I was 3. And my dad was a severe alcoholic. I remember waking up on the weekends that I stayed with him, and there would be a fifth of Kentucky Tavern whiskey that would be gone. I only remember one time my entire childhood that he drove me, and he was sober. And I specifically remember looking at him and saying, Dad, I really like it when you're sober. I enjoy your company so much more. And it wasn't 2 minutes after that, we stopped at a liquor store so he could get some more alcohol.
Oh, gosh.
It was rough growing up with him. My mom did have custodial custodial custody over me. Like, she was the main parent. And my dad only had me every other weekend. But as little girls are, we love our dads. Always saw past his flaws and made excuses for him to mom. Mom would ask, if he had been drinking before he brought me home and stuff like that. And I'd always had covered up for him. So, it wasn't until I got older, until I was about 16, did my relationship with him turn physical, where he did put his hands on me one time. And that was kind of the end for me. But I will say God was definitely there with me that night that happened, because at one point he was on top of me with his hands around my neck. And he had at the time worked out of town, and he would occasionally bring home people who were homeless or who he thought needed help.
Right.
And it just so happened that he had brought home a couple and their newborn baby from a different state. And they were in the other room and heard the commotion. And the husband came in and pulled him off of me. He was arrested that night. And I will tell you right now that those people, I truly believe God sent his angels, because I have nobody, not the police, because my dad was charged, not the police, not anybody has ever heard from those people again.
Oh, wow. I mean, God is God. God uses anyone and everyone. Okay, Whitney, you became pregnant as a teenager. So, so many young ladies have become pregnant as a teenager, and it's a tough, challenging road to face. So, what happened with you?
Yeah. So when I was 18, I was dating somebody, people who were significantly older than me. And, I had gotten into taking different pills and drinking quite a bit. So I did end up getting pregnant. It was in between my junior and senior year of high school. And my mom and anybody close to me will tell you that getting pregnant with my oldest son, Riley, is literally what saved my life. I was going down a road that would have led me to be in jail or dead. And the day I found out I was pregnant with him, I turned my life around. I turned away from drugs. And I did everything that I could to provide for my son, to make sure that he never did without, and just to give him the best life that I possibly could.
Was your mother supportive during this time? Did she help you out?
Yes. So, and it's funny because when I told her I was pregnant for the first time, I'll never forget, she just kept saying, "Just tell me you're joking. Just tell me you're joking. Like it's real. Just tell me you're joking." And, after the initial shock wore off, it took a couple of days. She was definitely supportive. Giving him up for adoption or having an abortion was never in my mind, and never in hers either. She did everything that she could, whether it would have been to babysit for me, and all of my family did. My grandmother, Gwen, actually babysat at the time, and so did my aunt, and they both babysat for free for me while I was in school. And then I worked part-time as well. So I had a plethora of support. It literally takes a village to raise a kid, and my village was behind me.
Absolutely. And that's a blessing also, because there's young ladies out there that do not have that support system. So that is a total blessing. Whitney, we're going to take a really quick break here. So we're going to be right back with more Shaped by Faith. Everyone stay tuned. Welcome back to Shaped by Faith, where we shape our bodies and our hearts for God's purposes. So my guest today is Whitney Logan Howard. She's the granddaughter of Gwen Bennett, the founder of Shepherd's Hand Ministries. And we're going to hear all about it because Whitney is going to take that baton from Gwen. And as Gwen puts it in her own words, Whitney is going to take this ministry to the next level. I just love Gwen. You've got an amazing grandmother. You probably already know that though, right, Whitney?
Yes, I'm so blessed to have her in my life.
So awesome. Okay, so she babysat for you. She was a support system along with your mom. So eventually you did get married. Is that correct?
That is correct. I started dating Billy back in 2014, and we got married in 2017.
Okay, so what was this like? What was your marriage like? Now is this his child?
Riley, no. My oldest is not his child. When Billy and I met, Riley was 5.
5 years old. Okay.
Yep. And Billy had no kids of his own. And at the beginning of our relationship, as any relationship, when you're in the quote unquote honeymoon phase, everything's great and wonderful. We did quickly get pregnant with a child that we lost. We had a miscarriage in October of 2014. And that was really hard. That took a toll on both of us mentally. And then we turned around and got pregnant again with Piper in October of 2015. We got married in April of 2017. And then had our youngest, our last child, in February of 2018. And our marriage itself, I will say, was not the best. It definitely was rocky. We fought all the time. We spent a lot of time apart. He spent time with his friends and his family, and I spent time with my friends and my family because we just didn't get along. We didn't attend church. We did not have God in our relationship, in our household, in our lives at all. So it was, our marriage was definitely a struggle, and we were both really unhappy. And in November of 2020, we divorced. We signed our divorce papers, and that was really hard. We had been separated about 6 months before we signed the papers, and through that time we were separated. We tried to work things out. We tried to reestablish a relationship, but nothing was working. We just still couldn't get along. And in January of 2021, I was sitting at home, and I had been thinking for a little while, there was a lot of, disturbance, disturbing the peace in cities all around the United States. And I had wondered, if that was brought to our city, if that was at my doorstep, what would happen to myself and my children? We didn't have a relationship with God. And if we were to pass away, I would not want that on my conscience. I know I would be deceased, but I didn't want my kids to suffer eternally for.
So Whitney, did the chaos in America kind of bring that to light for you?
It really did. And I had been thinking about it for a while. But it's such a large task to find a church that you feel at home at. You can go visit, church after church each week, and it's just difficult to find a church that's home to you.
Mm-hmm.
So I was actually one Sunday morning in January of 2021 was sitting on the couch, and was scrolling through Facebook, and somebody that I had graduated with had made a post about Pastor Brian Gibson, and he was talking negatively about him because there was a picture of Pastor Brian Gibson and a man in this full headdress. And the man in the full headdress had coincidentally been one of the people to go into the Capitol on January 6th of 21. And so that picture was passed around everywhere, and everybody was saying all kinds of negative things about him. Right. And I've never anybody who followed the grain, who followed what everybody else did. And when I saw that picture, and somebody who just based on Facebook post I disagreed with heavily on a lot of things, I was like, you know what? We're going to go to that church, and it's his church in Owensboro. Mm-hmm. I'm going to kids to that church, and I looked at their service times, and service started in like 45 minutes, and here I am with 3 kids. None of us are ready at all. And in 45 minutes, I got myself and 3 kids ready, and we headed to his church for the 9:30 service, and we just fell in love. Like, walking into that building for me was like walking into my home. Mm-hmm. It felt amazing, and I since then have gone there as much as possible. And a couple of services I'd gone a couple times, and Billy and I, again, were talking. We were trying to work things out, and I told him, I said, this is what I need in my life. This is what our kids need in their lives. And if you want to make this relationship work, if you want to make this family work, then you need to participate in this with us. We all need to be going to church together, and I need you to lead this family. Mm-hmm. And he started going with me. He agreed with me. And through God, through our relationship with God, and our, our continued going to church and being there week after week and reading our Bibles and praying, we have restored our relationship, our family. And as of the middle of November of 2021, we got remarried.
Oh, that is awesome. That is awesome. Look what God has done. You already know, but I'm amazed. Does Pastor Gibson know your story and why you landed at his church? Does he know that?
He does not. Mm-hmm. I just reached out to him last week, and I said, hey, I'm doing an interview with Theresa Rowe on Shaped by Faith, and you are part of my story. Do you care if I mention your name? And he said, no, I love Theresa. I love that station, and I don't mind mention my name. So
it's awesome. I mean, God works in miraculous ways. I mean, just think through Facebook, and we look at Facebook, and there's so much junk on there, but look how God used it to draw you closer to him. I mean, he uses anything and everything. I mean, he's just such an awesome God. We don't have a whole lot of time left because I want you to continue sharing, Whitney, and I want to talk about another transformation that took place in you as well. So let's take a really quick break here, and then when we come back, we'll pick it right back up. Okay?
Sounds good.
All right. So everyone, stay tuned for more Shaped by Faith. Welcome back to Shaped by Faith. We shape our bodies and hearts for God's purposes. Okay, Whitney, I want you to continue sharing what the Lord did to you. So you and Billy and your children are now attending his church, and the pastor is Pastor Brian Gibson. So what happens next?
Yeah, so when I went for the first time is every service, typically at the beginning in between worship and when, the pastor gives the sermon, we have a moment to where the pastor will talk about how Jesus had went on to the cross and died for our sins, and how if you are at a point in your life where you're not right with God, if you need a restart to that relationship with Him, if you don't feel like you're where you need to be, then you raise your hand and the whole congregation prays with you. Everybody says the same prayer, but God knows that you're making your heart right with Him, and I did that. The first service that I attended when it was just my kids and myself. And I have seen the biggest transformation in my life. I find myself leaning to God in situations that, bring me anxiety, that bring me stress, that, normally would have me quick to anger. And I just find peace, and my entire life is so much better, and my kids' lives, and our whole family. So,
well, Whitney, so your whole family had this transformation, this spiritual transformation, and we know that peace is a peace of Christ that transcends all understanding, because when there's chaos going on, we can still maintain and sustain that peace of Christ in our own individual hearts. But you also told me that you had a physical transformation of weight loss during this time. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes, I did. So when Billy and I decided to start going to church together, I would say again, but it was really for the first time that we were going to church together. And we were both at the largest weight that we had ever been in our lives. And we had decided that we were going to start to lose some weight. We were going to try. And he had found a little questionnaire on Facebook, and it, asked specific questions about how active he was, what his weight was, what his body type was. And he answered it to fit himself. And we both used that back schedule. It was an intermittent fasting schedule. And I lost roughly 60 pounds on it in
60.
about
wow. And here's Facebook.
Yes.
Got us using Facebook to help you both. 60 pounds. That's a big deal. Wow. Yes. So you said intermittent fasting.
Yes.
And that worked for you. Okay.
It did. I am a super picky eater. And I have found in the past that when I go off of sugar, or if I stop eating carbs or whatever the case may be, that the second that you decide you're done with that diet and you start putting that sugar, that carbs back into your diet, that you just gain the weight back, and you gain it back so much more quickly. So with the intermittent fasting, I was just able to eat things that I knew that I liked, that I knew that I would eat once I was done fasting. So I wasn't taking anything out that would make a significant difference once I was done fasting.
Okay. All right. So now let's talk about, because there's not a lot of time left. Okay. So you're preparing to take the reins from your grandmother, Gwen, who I'm sure she's been a great mentor for you. And you look at her life and you look how she treats people And so you totally understand, her heart for this ministry. So how did you even get involved with the ministry? And maybe why are you stepping up to take the baton from her?
Yeah. So I got involved when she began the ministry. I occasionally have taken volunteer days from work and helped her out. We've gone to do different, homeless fair events where we pass out clothes and shoes and coats to the homeless. And then also my oldest son, Riley, who's now 12, he, during the summertime, actually goes and helps out. He goes and volunteers his time during the summer. So that's how I got involved. But back in August of 2021, God just kept putting it on my heart that I was supposed to take over this ministry from her, which was crazy to me because, like I said, I only had volunteered just a handful of times. I wasn't super active in the ministry. And I called her one day and thinking she's going to say, Logan, this is crazy. You don't know anything about this. And I told her that God had put it on my heart, and she started crying. And she said, I prayed for years that this would be passed down through my family. And this is just God answering those prayers for me.
Oh my goodness. I mean, time's out. We can keep talking, Whitney. We could, but we've got to go. But I appreciate your heart for taking up the reins, and I bless you. And I thank you for the interview today and for sharing your story. It was awesome.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And thank you, everyone, for listening. I'm Theresa Rowe. Have a blessed day.
Thank you for listening to Shaped by Faith with Theresa Rowe. Remember to visit shapebyfaith.com to find out more about workouts, the TV show, podcasts, blogs, Shaped by Faith products, and much more.